A breath slips from your lips into the cold night and vanishes. So too does the glory of mankind. Everything you hold on to is but mist beneath the morning sun. Have you ever felt like everything you strive for in this life is just a meaningless cycle? You wake up early to begin a new day, working until you forget to eat or sleep, gathering every coin, every accolade, only to one day sit there beneath the fading gold of twilight and whisper, all of this, what is it really for? Welcome to Prayer Station, a call from the abyss of the soul. These are the words of the teacher, the son of King David, who once ruled in Jerusalem. These opening lines are not a royal proclamation. They are not the triumphant anthem of a victorious king. They are the confession of a man who once stood at the summit of the world, yet now sits in the ashes of his ambition and doubt. The teacher, in Hebrew Kohelet, is not a personal name. It is a title, a role, a soul standing among the assembly, not to teach right from wrong, but to dissect the emptiness within himself before the eyes of all. And when he is called the Son of David, all eyes turn to one figure: Solomon, the wisest king in Israel's history. He built the first temple for the Lord. He received divine wisdom from above, yet he was also the man with 1,000 wives, 1,000 concubines, and a heart that eventually turned to idols. We do not know for certain if this teacher was Solomon himself, or simply a voice speaking on his behalf. But in truth, it doesn't matter, because his words were never written for history. They were written for the soul. He does not write as a king yearning to be admired. He does not speak as a philosopher seeking applause. He does not preach like a theologian armed with absolute truth. He merely whispers, like an old man who has tasted every glory life can offer, and now stands silent before the void in his heart. Meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. It's not the roar of a rebel. It's the sigh of a soul who has walked every road of knowledge, every thrill, every conquest, and returned empty-handed. This is not a conclusion. It is a door, one that opens the journey of questions. Is there anything that truly endures under the sun? When the sun still rises but the soul has faded. The sun still rises every day. The wind still dances across rooftops, echoing against the mountains before returning. As if no one ever called its name. Rivers still flow into the sea, but the sea is never full. Life spins on like an endless wheel. But the soul of man, it erodes like stone worn smooth by centuries of water. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. This world, no matter how long you live, how far you travel, how much you learn, will one day draw you back to a feeling so old, so familiar, and yet you still can't name it. Weariness. Emptiness. Have you ever felt that? When you finally obtain what you've chased for years, but then feel even emptier than when you started. When every morning you pull open the curtains, take a sip of coffee, scroll through your phone, and wonder why your chest feels like ice. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Today you may invent something new, but tomorrow the next generation will call it ancient. Today you may be honored, but 100 years from now, your name will be a faded line in a forgotten book. And in that endless current of time, the teacher, a man wiser than any king before him, bows his head and sighs. I searched for wisdom, I examined folly and madness, but I saw, It was all chasing the wind. He didn't write like a scholar defending a theory. He wrote like a father who watched his child step into the same endless cycle and longed to stop them before it was too late. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Some truths won't set you free. Some knowledge doesn't bring light. It only burns your peace to ashes. The teacher doesn't tell you not to seek understanding. He only warns you, if you search for the meaning of life only beneath the sun, you will never find it. Because nothing here is eternal. Nothing here is truly enough. We stay busy trying to live, but sometimes we forget why we're alive at all. The life of a man who had everything yet felt the most lost. Imagine a man sitting in a palace adorned with gold, surrounded by the sounds of music and laughter echoing through marble halls, wine in crystal cups, lavish feasts on silver trays, fragrant gardens blooming under moonlight, servants awaiting his every command. And yet, amid all of it, his heart feels like an empty room without a door. That was the teacher, a man who stood atop everything the world could offer. And he wrote, "I built great houses for myself. I planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and reservoirs to water flourishing forests. I amassed silver and gold, treasures of kings and provinces. I had male and female singers, and the delights of the flesh in abundance." He wasn't just wealthy, he was wealthier than anyone who had ever lived in Jerusalem before him. He wasn't just wise, he used that very wisdom to test every path humanity seeks in its pursuit of joy. "I denied myself nothing my eyes desired, I refused my heart no pleasure." And you know what? He truly felt joy. Joy when the buildings rose, joy when the wine touched his lips, joy when the music soared and the laughter surrounded him. But then, I looked at everything my hands had done and saw it was all meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Have you ever felt that? When you finally hold in your hands what you've longed for and feel nothing? An unsettling silence in your soul. A question whispers, "So, was this it?" The teacher knew that feeling better than anyone. He had power but could not stop aging. He had everything but could not fill the hollow inside. He had fame but no answer for the question of meaning. And at last he admitted, "I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind." Do you see the paradox? The one who had it all, I was most alone. The one who reached every summit was the first to say no. This wasn't what I was searching for, the fullness of the body. It was never the cure for the hunger of the soul. When everything I once took pride in becomes a burden. Have you ever felt this? You spent your youth building something and you skipped the gatherings, the parties, you sacrificed sleep, health, and time just to prepare for the future. And then one day you look back and realize the very things you once took pride in have now become burdens. The teacher felt it too. I toiled with all my heart. I labored, I planned, I built an entire empire. But in the end, it will all fall into someone else's hands. Someone who never shed a single drop of sweat for it, who has never felt the loneliness of a sleepless night, who never paid the price of broken relationships, fading strength, or lost years just to keep things afloat. And worse still, that person might be a fool, one who will squander everything I have built. That's when anger rises, not the kind you can scream, but the kind that drips in silence, even as you lie in bed. Even at night, my heart finds no rest. Worry does not end. Exhaustion does not fade. You no longer feel joy in what you've created. You no longer feel pride in the things others admire in you, because deep inside, you know it will not last. And so he confesses, I began to hate all the things I had worked for. I even hated the dreams I once cherished. We live in a world that tells us to leave a legacy, but the teacher unveils a terrifying truth. Legacy is not always a reward. Sometimes it is a sentence. I labored, but another will reap. I was wise, but a fool may inherit. I was faithful, but the future is no longer in my hands. And if you've ever woken up in the night with a single aching question, what have I lived for? Then perhaps you and the teacher have stood in the same place. I looked at it all and concluded it was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. So then, what isn't meaningless? What truly deserves the pursuit of your entire life? A meal, a sunlit afternoon, a friendship, a whisper from God. And when I finally let go, I discovered a miracle. I used to believe that happiness awaited at the end of success. After a promotion, after a bank account reached a certain number, after I stood on a mountain high enough for the world to see me. So I chased, I gathered, I owned, I indulged, and I longed for more, and I ran again. And when I finally stood on top of that mountain, where there was nothing left to conquer, I felt empty. I had tasted everything, the applause, the parties, the wealth, the pleasure. But each time I reached out to hold joy, it vanished like smoke between my fingers. Until I was tired, until I had nothing left to prove, no one left to compete with, and I let go. And in that moment, I saw what I had missed my whole life, a simple meal of bread and oil, a warm glass of wine poured in the fading light, a carefree laugh shared with someone I loved, a day of hard work ending in quiet satisfaction. I used to think those were small rewards. Now I know they are miracles. I didn't create happiness, I received it from the hand of God, one day at a time, one moment at a time, in the sacred ordinary. Who can eat and find enjoyment without him? That question stopped me cold. I, the one who thought I was the center, the one who believed the world existed to give me what I wanted, now stood quietly beneath the setting sun and whispered, "Thank you." I realized the more is not always better. Achievements are not always meaningful. Joy doesn't come from the hands of men. Joy is given from somewhere higher, swept by the wind. Meanwhile, the arrogant live on, the corrupt thrive. They build more houses, they appear on magazine covers, they teach their children how to succeed. And in all of it, the teacher saw, and he did not stay silent. The righteous get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked get what was meant for the righteous. Do you feel the injustice? So did the teacher. He didn't sugarcoat the truth. He didn't offer shallow comfort. He dared to say what others would not. I praise the dead more than the living, and better still are those who were never born. Why? Because he saw the tears of the oppressed and no one to comfort them. He saw silence where justice should be and applause for the wicked. Have you seen it too? A poor mother selling lottery tickets was chased from the park, while the one who embezzled millions speaks at a press conference. A loyal friend betrayed, while the betrayer is celebrated. An innocent child dying of disease, while the poison peddler grows wealthier by the day. And sometimes, you want to cry out, "God, where are you in all of this?" The teacher didn't have easy answers, but he had something else. Truth. I said in my heart, God will bring judgment to both the righteous and the wicked. For there is a time for every deed. Today justice may be delayed, but true justice will never be forgotten. Because there is one who records every hidden act, every silent tear in this world. You could have everything, but without God, you feel nothing. Just tastelessness in your mouth, just blurred light in your eyes, just hollow laughter in your chest. But if you have Him, even a simple meal becomes a feast. A single embrace becomes heaven. A day's labor becomes deep contentment. I thought I was searching for greatness, but in the end, what I needed most was to live fully in the smallest things. Everything has its season, but nothing lasts forever. We are all dancing to a rhythm we cannot hear, the dance of time. No one sees the music, but everyone moves to its silent beat. A child is born with a cry that cuts the air, and elsewhere at that same moment, a soul quietly departs its body. One family plans a wedding, another prepares a funeral shroud. Youth does not stay, laughter does not linger, and those we love most will one day live only in memory. And it is this impermanence that makes everything beautiful. If autumn leaves never fell, would we treasure the green of spring? If goodbyes were never spoken, would we ever learn how to truly love while we still can? He has set eternity in the hearts of men. There is a whisper within us, a longing we cannot name. We yearn for what is eternal, a love that doesn't fade, a home that doesn't shift, a memory that doesn't vanish. But the tragedy is this: we are trapped inside a box called time. We dream of forever, while each day slips through our fingers like sand. We make our plans, but storms still come. We light birthday candles and notice gray hairs. We wait for some special day and forget that each day we can breathe is already a miracle. No one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end, and that is pain, but also beauty. Because if we understood everything, where would faith be? If we controlled the future, what need would we have for hope? God invites us to live in the present moment, not to avoid the future, but to trust Him with every heartbeat of time. No one knows what lies ahead, but we know who holds the future in His hands. So if you are in a season of tears, don't believe it will last forever, because the time to mourn will pass. And there will come another season, a time to dance. If you are in a season of loneliness, remember this: there is a time to hold on, and there is a time when you will be held. One day you will look back and realize even your seasons of sorrow were carrying you toward life, because every season of your life, it is a brushstroke on God's eternal masterpiece. You may not see the whole picture, but He does. You may not understand Him, but He understands, and He makes everything beautiful in its time. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He turns grief into healing, separation into reunion, time into something sacred. What season are you in right now? Can you glimpse the beauty God is forming, even if you don't yet understand it? We long for eternity, but we're bound by time. We want to know everything, but must learn to live with mystery. Why do the wicked live long while the righteous die young? Have you ever sat in a courtroom and watched a liar smirk in triumph while the honest one stands silent in shame? Have you ever stood by a cold grave looking down at the body of someone kind, gentle, faithful, and whispered, "Why them?" They didn't chase riches, they didn't harm anyone, they loved, they sacrificed, they trusted in God, and yet they died young. They passed in silence, no headlines, no eulogies. Just a small stone, every whispered prayer, every selfless deed unseen by the world. He sees it. And one day, He will bring it all into the light. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Do not let injustice snuff out your fire. Do not let corruption make you forsake integrity. Because this life is not the end of the story. And if you are angry, be angry like the teacher was. Angry enough to cry out for justice. Angry enough to live with even deeper truth. Angry enough to never make peace with the darkness. That is the fire within the righteous. Not a fire that destroys, but one that awakens. Awakens faith, awakens the hunger for what is right, and awakens a generation to live for what is true. Death, the destiny of us all. There is a truth we all know, but few dare to face it. We will die. No one is exempt. There is no contract for extension, no exception for being good or great, no special treatment for the accomplished. And the teacher, a man who had everything, fame, power, wisdom, and wealth, stood before death and did not look away. He didn't soften the blow with pretty words. He didn't offer empty comfort. He wrote this: "The living know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten." How does that make you feel? Cold, hollow, or to awakened? The teacher wasn't trying to scare us. He was trying to wake us up. Look around you. Everything you're building, your home, your career, your reputation, your savings account, will not follow you into the grave. You will leave this world the same way you entered it. Naked, alone. Dust you are, and to dust you will return. But amid all these cold, sobering truths, there is a glimmer of light, one line that stuns the heart, a truth that cuts through the silence like a whisper from eternity. Better a living dog than a dead lion. He wasn't mocking life. He wasn't praising mediocrity. He was reminding you, as long as you live, you have hope. As long as you breathe, you still have a choice. You can start again. You can forgive. You can love. You can return to God. But once you're gone, everything closes. In the grave where you are going, there is no work, no planning, no knowledge, no wisdom. So then, eat with joy, drink with gratitude, love the one beside you while you still can. And whatever you do, do it with all your heart, for that is your portion under the sun. The teacher wasn't promoting hedonism. He wasn't saying, live recklessly and die anyway. He was reminding you, live each day as a gift, given by the hand of God. Live with the awareness that life is finite, and it's that very limit that makes it sacred. Don't wait until the hospital bed to say, I wish I had loved more. I wish I had forgiven sooner. I wish I had lived true to myself. You're still breathing. You're reading these words. That means there is still time, and that is why the teacher wrote these words. Not to make you fear death, but to teach you how to live. And beneath the ashes, a spark still shines. There is a truth we all know, but few dare to look it in the eye. We will die. No one escapes it. There are no extensions, no exceptions for the righteous, no exemptions for the famous. And the teacher, who once held everything in his hands, wisdom, power, wealth, and glory, stood face to face with death and did not flinch. He didn't write comforting cliches. He didn't try to soften the edge. Instead, he declared, The living know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They no longer have a share in anything done under the sun. How does that make you feel? Fearful, empty, or finally awake? The teacher wasn't trying to paralyze you. He was trying to awaken you. Look around. Everything you're building, your home, your reputation, your success, your image, will not follow you into the grave. You came into this world with nothing, and you'll leave the same way. From dust we came, and to dust we shall return. But in the middle of this cold, echoing truth, there is still light. There's still something undeniably beautiful. One sentence, so simple, yet it pierces the heart. Better a live dog than a dead lion. He's not belittling greatness. He's not mocking the dead. He's reminding us, if you are still alive, you still have a chance. If there is breath in your lungs, there is hope in your story. You can begin again. You can forgive what haunts you. You can return to the one who made you, but once you die, the page closes. In the realm of the dead where you are going, there is no work, no planning, no knowledge, no wisdom. So then, eat, and let it bring joy. Drink, and let it be filled with gratitude. Love, while love can still be touched and returned. Live on with all your heart, because this moment is sacred. The teacher was not preaching indulgence. He was not saying, live wildly because death is certain. No, he was whispering something deeper. Live as if each moment were a divine gift. Live knowing that limits make life sacred. Don't wait until the hospital bed to whisper, I wish I had loved. I wish I had forgiven. I wish I had lived. You're alive. You're breathing. You are here. That means there is still time. And that is why the teacher wrote these words, not to make you fear the end, but to teach you how to begin again. The teacher's final words, standing before the judgment. There is a moment we will all face, not in the noise of a cheering crowd, not beneath the spotlight of applause, but in the stillness, when all sounds fade, when your hands release the tools of labor and your soul begins to gaze toward the final door. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, not when your hair has turned silver, not when your legs tremble, not when your eyes grow dim like winter fog, but now, while your heart still beats. Before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well. These are not random metaphors, they are poetry or death. The silver cord, Mildanauer, is life itself, delicate as thread. The golden bowl, one is the soul, radiant but fragile. The pitcher at the spring, the body carrying breath. The wheel at the well, the turning motion of your days. And then, each breaks one by one. Dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. A short sentence, but it carries the weight of the universe. The body is ashes, but the spirit belongs to the one who breathed it into your lungs from the very beginning. And now, like a circle closing in eternity, the teacher whispers again, meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. But don't misunderstand, he is not defeated, he is not in despair. On the contrary, he is leading us to a truth that cannot be unlearned. To live is to prepare for judgment. To breathe is to remember that silence is coming. To rejoice is to realize joy doesn't come from beneath the sun, but from the one who created it. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. This is the final bell, the closing line, the testament of a soul who has seen everything under the sun, and now points us to something beyond it, This is not advice, this is not philosophy, this is a commandment. From a man who has lived long enough to know nothing under the sun has meaning, if it is separated from the one who made the sun. And so he concludes, "For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil." Dear friend, are you ready? Not just to live, but to be judged. When the curtains fall, when the lights go out, when the world stops watching you. Only one will be turning the pages of your life, reading every silent thought, weighing every decision made in secret. And that, it is where meaning is found. Not by the hands of men, but by the eyes of the Creator. So if there is one truth to cling to after all of this, let it be this: fear God and keep His commandments. Because in the end, that is what will remain. Every secret, whether light or dark, will one day stand before the eternal judge. No more excuses, no one left to blame. Only Him and you. The teacher lived. He searched. He wandered. He drank deeply, laughed loudly, built kingdoms, gathered treasure. And in the end, He wept. And in His tears, He left us something priceless: fear God and obey His word. Not because we understand everything, but because He understands all things. If your heart has been stirred, don't let these words pass like the wind. Share this with a friend who feels lost, with a loved one walking through doubt, or with your future self, when you need a voice to awaken your soul. Let Ecclesiastes be the mirror of your soul. Subscribe so you never miss a word that revives your spirit. And if any line in this message stopped you in your tracks, write it in the comments, because maybe that single line could save someone else on the edge. Life is fleeting, but the word of God endures forever. So live as if every moment is written to be read before His face.